Hey guys, Matthew, it's been about a week since my last upload, so in today's video I wanted to go over what happened and essentially whether I had dropped the Set the Chat series, and also what is going to be upcoming on this channel in terms of content for the rest of 3.18, as for me, the league is not done at all. There's still a lot of things I want to do. So essentially what happened is the day after my last upload of the Set the Chat series episode, or the day after that or whatever, I caught COVID, and it's been pretty rough. It definitely kicked my ass. And now, pretty much since yesterday, I've been feeling pretty good. The actual symptoms of COVID have basically passed almost entirely. There's one thing, though, that seems to be remaining, and that is headaches. I am having some insane headaches. Like to the point where I basically can't stare at a screen for any long period of time. I can't even concentrate. Like, it's really, really bad. So I'm hoping that this is gone. I've talked to people who also had COVID, and looks like they're saying it takes upwards of 2 weeks to be completely gone. So we're just past a week. So I'm hoping that, give it the next day or two, maybe the next few more days, I'm going to be back to completely normal, and then we can get back on the actual content creation train. As like I said, there's a lot more that I want to do. So let's talk about that. The Set the Chat series first. There's been quite a bit of lapse of time now since the last episode, and whenever the next episode comes out. So what I decided to do, as well as due to demand from people who are wanting to see it from scratch, I decided to level a new character on a new account, which basically means no atlas, no currency, no gear, no nothing. Now I got the character to max. It's like something around level 60, and it has a few chaos just from leveling. But that's it, and we're going to be taking it from there, and then I'll show you guys how, even starting over a month into a league from a brand new character, I'm able to work my way up to like a headhunter, probably within 15 to 20 hours or so. I'm not expecting to take too much longer than that. Of course, it also depends on where the league is at that point, as the player base is definitely dropping even daily as we are a month and a half into a league, which is a pretty reasonable place for a lot of people to start quitting. All right, so that's kind of what's going to be happening for the Sad to Chat series. Basically, going again from scratch, working our way towards a headhunter, then probably working our way towards a mage blood. Now, I don't think that we're going to end up going for a mirror. Mirrors are just ridiculously expensive this league. Already up to 500 exalts, barely a month or a month and a half into a league. It's just too much. And while it would be doable, because if you were able to farm, say, a mage blood, then you just have to do that 3 times and you'll have a mirror. It's just no one's really going to learn anything from me just doing the same thing but 3 times longer, if you will. So that's kind of why I'm not going to do that, or at least I don't think so. Unless after the mage blood we go into like crafting or recombinating and stuff like that, which is going to make it much more efficient to actually get to a mirror worth of currency. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I don't know. Now the next thing I want to do is basically going back to the Casual Exile document. Now I hope that most of you know what I'm talking about when I say the Casual Exile document. If not, you can look in the description of this video. There's going to be a link to this. Essentially, this is from Project Predicting Profitability of last league, where the goal was to essentially predict how much money you can make from each individual mechanic in the game, as long as you're utilizing the proper Alice passives. Now, most of this is still completely fine and completely up to date, right? Because most of it hasn't really changed in any significant way. Now, it is true that the Alice has changed a little bit. The Atlas skill tree, I should say, as from the blocking of mechanics and the keystones and all that, right? Which has, in most cases, just meant that some of these mechanics are a little bit better than what they were, but I don't think it's too crazy to the point where it's worth it to go back and redo all of this testing at all. However, there's one portion of this document which really does need to be retested, and that is the bossing portion of it. Now, why is that? Of course, the bosses, most of them, have kept the same mod or the same loot table when it comes to their non-Uber version, but of course they added the Uber version of every single boss, right? So there's Shaper, but there's also Uber Shaper. There's Uber Elder, but there's also Uber Elder. There's obviously Cyrus, Uber Cyrus, etc., right? So I would like to redo all of this testing, and also for the invitations, because the invitation has had Height of Hubris and Captivated Interest added to it, which gives it a lot of additional quality that we did not have access to, which obviously means that while these numbers, these values are still very accurate, if you were to do the formed invitation with the 70% quantity without the nodes, because obviously we didn't have access to them, this is the sort of profit that you could expect to make. However, it's a lot better than that, because now we do have access to Height of Hubris and Captivated Interest, which means we can make a lot more money, right? And then, of course, when it comes to the Uber bosses, some of them will also make us more money. So the way that I did it last league is probably the same thing that we're going to be doing this league. Basically, I outsourced the actual farming of these bosses and these invitations to other players. And what I did is I funded the actual sets or the actual bosses or whatever, right? The actual maps, so that I would basically give people a bunch of currency so they could go out and buy the sets. And then they would run them, they would document all of the loot that they got, and then they would sell that, and they would keep 100% of the profit, 100% of everything, right? So not only are they getting free sets, they're also getting to keep all the loot, which essentially means all they have to do in order to basically pay their investment is just a documentation, the time that it takes to actually go in and document these different bosses. So if this is something that interests you, if you're playing a boss killer, or if you're just looking to make some easy currency, you can message me on Discord, and whenever I start giving out sets or currency to buy sets, I'll hit you guys up. Now, I would like to do between 500 and 1,000 of each of these bosses and their Uber variant, right? So, for example, 500 to 1,000 Shapers and 500 to 1,000 Uber Shapers, right? So there's quite a lot. So for most people, that's only going to be between 50 to 100, right? I'm not going to push 500 Shapers on a single person. That's unrealistic. They're going to burn out. But 50 to 100, that's something that most people can do over the course of a few days. And then, of course, because they get to keep everything, it's pretty lucrative because they don't even have to invest into the actual buying of the fragments or anything like that. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to do. I'd like to do, again, between 500 and 1,000 of each of these bosses and their Uber variant. And then for the invitations, probably going to look to do 100 to 200 or so invitations. Now, there's no reason to redo the normal invitation without the Height of Hubris and without the Captivated Interest, as technically this has not changed whatsoever since the previous league. So it's really just going to be Captivated Interest and Height of Hubris adding on top. Now, I could actually just take these values and kind of multiply them, but I think it's going to be a little bit more accurate if we go and retest the whole thing. But yeah, that's kind of the content that you can expect from my channel for the upcoming few weeks. And after that, of course, we should be getting pretty much the announcement for 3.19, which means we're going to go into, of course, League Start practice, as well as figuring out what sort of League Starter builds are going to be good, as I'm sure that GGG is going to be killing a lot of the meta builds from this league, especially when it comes to League Starters. Things like Mage Skellies, things like Seismic are most likely not going to be surviving the upcoming patch notes, but I've been saying that for a while now, and look at us, look at where we're at right now, so who knows what's going to be happening. Anyways, I do want to, again, apologize for the lack of upload, and hopefully, I can make up for it in the upcoming weeks. Before I go, though, as always, I do want to say massive thank you to my patrons. So we have Jaden, Rocky, Max, Soulmonk, Exo, Mr. Skull, Thomas Massenake, The Great Master, Alex, Tim, Mercury, and Bert. So, of course, Kai, Nailed, Jarvis, Jobin, Bitizen, Vaith, Talismar, Endo, Drago99, and Sins Eater. Anyone else who has supported me in the past, and anyone else who has just remained anonymous. That'll be Matthew signing out. Until the next one, peace.